Welcome everybody to our launch of the fourth annual report of the Isle of Man Financial Services Authority. I'm Lillian Boyle and I'm the chair of the authority. It's amazing, but we're just about to reach our fifth anniversary, as the authority itself was set up in 2015 as an amalgam of the Financial Supervision Commission and the Insurance Pensions Authority here on the Isle of Man. The purpose of this short video by myself and Karen Badgerow, our Chief Executive, is really to highlight what we have detailed in the report, but also to show the new way of working, of which Karen will talk more in the next section. My role as Chairman of the Board has been to provide governance and stability in the relationship between the Board and the Executive. And with that, we have tried to find a way to work through the COVID crisis, or what may come to be called the first COVID crisis. In that, we have tried to look at our governance to see how we can work effectively and to ensure that our risk management has been measured, targeted, and appropriate. Also, very importantly, we have had to look at how our staff have been able to carry out their tasks and their work through this period. And very importantly for them, it has had to be a suitable method of working and, critically, a safe one. All of this has come together in the annual report, and we hope that you will look and enjoy and appreciate the work which has been done by us as an authority over this year. I'm going to hand over to Karen now to highlight a number of the factors which we have brought out in the annual report.
Thank you, Lillian. Indeed, it has been a challenging time for all of us, and we've really been stretched in terms of how we respond. I wanted to take this chance to thank both the staff, our board, and our stakeholders, our community at large, for how we all came together to respond in a very effective and a very human way to this significant crisis. I'm going to take the time now to talk a bit about the annual report and our communication themes. This webinar, and indeed our annual report, has a different look and feel this year in terms of our approach to reporting on what we were able to accomplish and what's ahead of us. We've taken three elements, three communication themes as part of our annual report: adaptability, resilience, and conduct. And certainly these themes are very relevant in our world today. Adaptability is all about our ability to adjust to new conditions. And we've all experienced that through these last 6 months. In normal times, financial services are never static. Indeed, we're always responding to international standards, new ways of working, new requirements, and new opportunities. And certainly through the crisis, we've needed to respond and not be static. Our practices as an authority, our processes need to be flexible and adaptable to change and new business opportunities, new business environments. And it's about managing risk and understanding risk through these changing times, but not compromising our regulatory standards. Our second theme that will be highlighted through the annual report is resilience, and it's the ability to spring back and recover. We have been fortunate as a jurisdiction to have built strong prudential requirements and standards around our capital, our liquidity, around client assets, and these have served us very well through the crisis. We have to have continuing focus on how we monitor these risks and how we respond to these risks. We need to be resilient to change and being able to respond and come back, and we have as an authority and certainly as a jurisdiction. And finally, the third theme you'll see in our annual report is around conduct. And conduct has been a theme that we've focused on the last couple of years. It was featured in our annual report and certainly in my comments in the annual report last year. This is a theme that's near and dear to all of us. Conduct is about doing more than just meeting rules and requirements. It's about how we behave and the culture that we set in organizations. No more importantly than now has been the issue of tone from the top in terms of how we respond to crisis, how we respond to new opportunities, how we respond as regulators, as markets, how we respond as to our customers and the service we provide to our customers and stakeholders. And this conduct and culture has to be consistent and be seen throughout the firm. So you'll see elements of how we respond to conduct challenges in our annual report. I'm just going to take the chance to talk about the year at a glance. It's one of my favorite parts of the annual report because it allows us the opportunity to look back and say what we've been able to accomplish, and also to focus on what work lies ahead for us. One of the areas that we're quite proud of is the work we've done on domestic systemically important banks, and that framework and our practices has largely embedded into our business as usual now. Another area has been the development of our frameworks around decision-making with respect to our enforcement work. You will have observed on our website that the authority has worked quite closely with industry, and we've had some successes around settlements in terms of our enforcement processes. It's been very critical that we are transparent about those outcomes, and we try to provide, as part of those processes, feedback to industry on what we have learned and what should be some observations for industry as well in terms of those activities. Lillian's going to touch upon our bank recovery and resolution, but that has been a big piece of work for the authority over the last couple of years. But Lillian will focus on sort of what's ahead for us and for the sector. Technology and systems, mission critical for us. One of our major projects has been our data system, which I'll reflect on later on. But again, our work as an authority in terms of the jurisdiction, and we have been working closely with the digital agency and the blockchain office around technology, and this work will continue. We have formed an internal working group around innovation because we want to be positioned to respond to new opportunities in the sectors and be able to consider how these opportunities should be reflected in our risk management and risk mitigation processes. So much ahead for us there as well. And one of the other big pieces of work we've done this year has been around our AML. And this has been a focus for a number of us across the Isle of Man government. We have worked as an authority on focusing on revising and refreshing our AML handbook and our guidance to be more inclusive of all sectors and to have a common look and feel across those sectors. We've also been working with Isle of Man government and Cabinet Office on our response to Moneyval. And I'm very proud to announce that we've have had a lot of success in that area. Most recently, we've been advised as a jurisdiction that we are moving towards being 100% compliant with the technical and effectiveness requirements of our Moneyval observations. Indeed, I think we're at a point where we're at 92% of meeting all the technical requirements as part of the Moneyval review and 98% of the effectiveness requirements. We also, as many of you may know, we're part of the compliance enhancing procedures of Moneyval, and we have been advised that we will be soon exiting that process. All good news for the jurisdiction and all good news as a result of the hard work that all of us have done across the jurisdiction, including industry, to make sure that we can meet those standards and observations. Finally, our response to COVID. I couldn't close a sector on reflecting on the year at a glance without reflecting on our work on COVID. Lillian has touched upon the important work that the authorities undertaken and the important work of the board. And also as well, I have to reflect on the fact that we've worked very closely with a number of you across industry and across government to make sure our response was measured, timely, and appropriate in terms of the environment we found ourselves in. I am going to pause now and turn back to Lillian to talk about two other projects that have been with the authority for a period of time and that will be moving forward in the coming year. Lillian?
Thanks very much, Karen. Yes, two projects that are quite different. One is one of our longest running projects within the authority, and that is in respect of the insurance core principles. Now, this one actually started before the authority existed and was initiated by the Insurance and Pensions Authority as a result of the update to the International Insurance Core Principles in 2011. Changes that have come from that relate to solvency regimes, conduct, governance, and very importantly for us on the Isle of Man, the ability to have the group supervision based here for relevant organisations. We are conscious that we would not have achieved the success with this project without the input of industry. And it is always vital to us to be able to discuss and to debate and to find a way forward with those in the industry who are impacted by our particular projects. This project still has a couple of areas to finish, and we're hopeful that those will be concluded in 2021. A new project which is started and will come into fruition over the period of 2020 and into 2021 is bank resolution. The Bank Recovery and Resolution Bill 2020 is expected to come into force later this year. At that time, the remit of the authority will expand to include responsibility for banking resolution, and we will simultaneously be appointed as the Resolution Authority for the island. The Resolution Authority's purpose is to protect customers, deposits, and the stability of the wider financial system in event of a bank failing. The Resolution Authority's powers are intended, where appropriate, to protect against the need for immediate winding up and bank closure. A number of banks operating in the island are incorporated in other jurisdictions, and we're very conscious that as we become the Resolution Authority, we will be required to liaise with our counterparts in those other jurisdictions so that in event of any failure, we can deal with matters in an efficient and coordinated manner. These are two key projects, and I'm going to hand over again to Karen to discuss some of the other initiatives that we're looking at this year.
Thanks, Lillian. Just a couple of other key areas that will be a focus for the authority in the coming years ahead. Clearly work on our supervisory approach. When we came together as an authority, we all had a risk assessment methodology, but the view had been that we needed to have one consistent approach to risk assessment. A lot of work has happened over the last couple of years in terms of defining our framework, our critical risk assessment modules focused across the sector. And now the focus of the authority will be around building out those modules. We have spent some time on the AML module, and that assessment approach is really embedded into the work that we do. And we're going to be building out the other assessment modules going forward. Critical piece of work tied into that has been our inspection work. And we've come together as an authority in terms of forming a working group internally to look at how we go about doing inspections. The approach we take in terms of our planning of our inspections, how we conduct our inspections on site, how we report back to the industry and the financial firm on the results of our inspection. And so that's really helped us to develop more consistent practices across the authority. Another important piece of work that we've been undertaking over the last number of years has been our data system. And as many of you can appreciate, when firms come together, when you have an amalgamation, you often have the issue of many data systems. We have been working on our back office system for a number of years, and in November of 2019, we launched the Atlas, our CRM system. This allows us to capture in one place really important data around activities that we undertake relative to our industry sector. Our work is not done yet. We have a number of other phases that we want to deliver, and we are now considering how we best approach this next phases of the project. So another important piece of work we're doing is around climate change. And climate change doesn't just have implications for us as citizens of the Isle of Man, citizens of the globe, but also in terms of risk to our financial sector. This year, we were granted membership as an authority to the Network for Greening the Financial System. And this network is extremely important because it provides us access to other regulators in terms of how we consider risks in our sector and what we need to do as a regulator to respond and to help mitigate those risks. A lot more work ahead for us, and we'll have to consider how we introduce and integrate this new risk, into our supervisory methodology. Finally, governance. And governance has been touched upon by Lillian in her opening comments, but governance is a focus for all of us. It's a focus for us as an authority and how we do our work, but also a focus of us in terms of how our sector does their work. And that tone from the top, conduct and culture are extremely important elements of strong, sustainable financial sectors. It will continue to be highlighted in the work that we do in the coming year. We've touched a bit on technology and innovation as well through our comments today, and this will also be featured in our annual report. New working practices, considering innovation business models is all part and parcel of our response to changes to the sector. We are part of a global network of financial regulators and looking at innovation. And again, it gives us a window into how other regulators are responding to changes in the environment. Certainly the pace of change of technology on digitization has been accelerated by COVID, and we will need to consider how we best respond to these new opportunities, but also these new risks to the financial sector. Lillian, I'm going to turn over to you now to talk a bit about a very important project for the authority, and that's our fee project. And some of you may have had some exposure to the fee project already, but Lillian, perhaps you can provide a few observations on the work ahead of us.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a project which we are probably just at the start of the journey on. We've already managed to go out to a few of our stakeholders to talk to them about how we plan to run this fee project, and to give a little bit of context as to where this project has emanated from and how we want to take it forward. I'll just give you a quick overview. Basically, in the budget in 2020 in February, the Treasury Minister in the Isle of Man announced that the authority would be moving towards a predominantly industry-funded model. That's a very big change for us as a regulator. And it's an important one, quite a step change because of the way that people look at regulators and judge their independence. Key to us achieving this project is very much discussion with industry and with other stakeholders. And I referred previously to the ICP project, where our success came from discussion with industry and stakeholders. So we are keen to follow that model again. And to achieve this, our initial steps within this are to go out and talk to industry bodies and to other relevant people who will have an interest in this. Key to achieving it is another aspect whereby we want to be sure that we have validated the processes that we come up with. So we will look to appoint an independent third party. We will have a consultation document which will look at the fees for the next couple of years. And then very importantly, we will have a discussion document which will be able to look forward as to how we get to this predominantly industry-funded model that we hope to achieve. We are going to have a number of consultation and discussions over the coming years on this. So very much something for the future. And there will be regular touch points with all our stakeholders. I think that sort of brings us almost towards the conclusion of this video. And so I'm just going to hand over to Karen for a final time to identify a couple of areas where we want to bring people's attention.
Lillian, thank you. I'll be closing up today. I think this is a reflection of our refreshed approach to reaching out to the industry. It's all about communication and being transparent about what we do. But our communication, our transparency has to be clear and relevant, timely and responsive, and at our best. And so I hope you will enjoy this webinar. I hope you'll take the chance to have a glance and walk through our annual report. As mentioned, our annual report will be launched September 28th, and the webinar will be accessible through a link on our website. So thank you again for today. Thank you, Lillian, and thank you to our staff for arranging this, and we hope you have the chance to join us virtually.